Today, we're going to be talking about fly fishing and how to get into it for as cheap as possible. I'm going to shop with you guys online and show you some of the rods that I recommend, and this is all stuff that I've personally used, or I have friends that use these rods as well that I've casted and enjoyed. So let's dive into it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to start with is Facebook Marketplace. Now this is hands down the best place to get into fly fishing with getting a good cheap price and still getting quality gear. There are a lot of good deals I've seen on Facebook Marketplace, especially if you're looking to get like a whole setup. So sometimes when people get out of the sport, they'll just list everything in one set price, so you can get like the waders, the boots, the fly line, the reel, the rod, the pack, the flies, all for just one set price. And especially if you're buying all of it together, they'll usually be willing to give you a pretty good deal on it. And so I've seen quite a few of those. I was just recently looking and I haven't seen any today, but I would check your area and see if there's anyone selling any fly fishing kits where you can just get the whole setup. Now there are some individual rods on here that I was seeing. So they have this Orvis Clearwater right here. This rod retails for like $4.30, so you're really only saving 30 bucks on that, so that's not the best deal. Looks like this has been posted for 2 weeks, so you might be able to talk them down a little bit. I was seeing some other ones on here. Let's see. We've got these boots right here. These are actually my all-time favorite fly fishing boots. These guys have them posted for $175, and they're like brand new. So that's actually a really good deal right there. It looks like you can get the waders with them. So yeah, we keep cruising down. We got some fly fishing packs. So that's a little sling pack right there for like 65 bucks. We keep scrolling down. We got some White River rods. I've seen these a lot of places, but I've never actually really heard much about the company. Let's see what else they got on here. Here's an Orvis Encounter for 150 bucks, a 5-weight. Condition is new. So let's actually see what the price on that one is. I don't know if that's the best deal. So that one retails for about $200. So yeah, that's not too bad, getting it down from $150. It's only been posted for 2 days, so yeah, if you wait a little bit and it still hasn't sold, you could probably shoot them a lower offer. I've noticed if you can find products on here that just haven't sold, you can usually send them an offer for it, and if it hasn't sold in a while, they're usually pretty willing to take it. So yeah, oh, looks like they got a Moonlit fly rod on here. 80 bucks for this rod. This is actually one of my all-time favorite companies. These rods are awesome. I really enjoy fishing these. We're actually going to talk about this company a little bit later. So new condition, 80 bucks. Not bad. That one retails for 100 and I think 65 or 75, but they came out with a new version of it, so it's actually been discontinued because they have the new one out, but still a great rod. I've got 2 of them. So Facebook Marketplace, if you're looking to get a good deal, check out Facebook Marketplace. You can usually get stuff for a lot cheaper and still get some really good quality gear. A lot of people that get into fly fishing tend to just not fish as much as they thought they would, and so they end up selling their gear and it's like barely used. So great place to shop. The next is going to be Walmart. Now, I know I talked earlier about Walmart. I really don't recommend Walmart very much to people, but I'm also a big advocate of just getting out and fishing no matter what. So like, don't let gear hold you back from getting out and having a fun time. So if all you can afford is like a $30 Walmart special, then do what you got to do to get about on that water. So I've casted some of these. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not impressed with these rods. They kind of suck. I've had a few buddies that wanted me to teach them how to fly fish that had a Walmart special, and like I was showing them how to roll cast, and it was pretty bad. But you can still catch fish on these. It's still possible. It's just not going to be as fun as some of the nicer rods. Now, one thing I have noticed is these rods, the cheaper ones, tend to be stiffer. So that actually can be good if you're throwing like streamers or woolly buggers. So if you do get one of these Walmart specials, I'd look at just learning how to fish streamers and woolly buggers. I probably wouldn't even bother with dry fly fishing just because these rods are stiff. They're not going to be able to really delicately cast a dry fly, and you're not going to be able to get a good presentation off of it. So next place that you can find cheap stuff is Amazon. There's a ton of random fly fishing companies out here that I've never heard of, but you can find a lot of good companies on Amazon, and sometimes you can find used rods on Amazon. So here's some Lamson rods right here. This is a really good company. They mostly do fly fishing reels, but they just recently came out with rods. But yeah, I still don't advise too much on Amazon. I mean, they've got Reddington on here. Like, there are some good rods out here, but if you're new to fly fishing and you don't know what brands to look for, it could just be confusing with just the vast amount of rods on Amazon. This also goes into if you have a local fly shop in your area, that can be a really good place too. I'm kind of shopping online just because that's what I can do with you guys on camera right now. But if you have a local fly shop in your area, I would recommend checking them out because they can give you really good local advice, help you find good rods, good equipment, and just kind of give you good advice in general to get into fly fishing. I don't recommend going to like Bass Pro Shops or Cabela's. They tends to have like high schoolers working there that usually just bait fish. They don't really know much about fly fishing. I've had a lot of situations there where I'm chatting with them and I'm like, okay, it's pretty obvious you don't know what fly fishing is, and a lot of them, they try to act like they do, which, you know, I'm fine if, you know, they don't fly fish, but don't pretend like you know what you're talking about if you don't. So that could be not good for someone new to fly fishing that might not know that. They might end up selling them on gear that's just not going to benefit them very much. So I recommend finding like a small local fly shop. Try to avoid big box stores. Now, if you don't have a small local fly shop in your area, luckily there are a lot of good websites out here where you can still get some quality rods. Amazon, Walmart, like I said, not going to be the best place to look. But one website I really do enjoy is moonlitflyfishing.com. This is a small company out of Idaho, and they sell a lot of awesome stuff. You can buy everything from fly rods to fly tying gear, to even rod blanks if you want to build a fly rod. They sell all sorts of stuff on this website, and I have several of their rods as well. So I have the Lunar S-Glass. I actually met this company at a fly fishing expo in Sandy, Utah, and that's when I first got to demo one of these rods, and I liked it a lot, so I bought it, and that was actually the 3-weight version of this exact rod. And then my wife, she bought the 6-weight rod that she uses as her streamer rod, this orange one right here. And we really enjoy them, but they did actually discontinue this, so they have them on clearance pricing. So you can get it for 89 bucks right there. That is a really, really good deal because this is a really nice rod, and that is dirt cheap. If we add this to cart too, I have a discount code you can use. So the discount code is DallinRafael, all caps, no space, and that saves you 13 bucks. So you can get this rod for $76.49. That is a killer deal. The reason it's so cheap is, like I said earlier, it's on clearance because they came out with the new one. So let's go check the new one out real quick. So this is going to be the new one right here. This is their Moonlit Lunar S2 glass. I haven't fished this one yet. I'm actually going to demo it tomorrow at the Fly Fishing Expo, and I'm going to see if I like it. But I've actually been wanting to try this for a while now since they came out. I really like the green fiberglass on it. I think it looks really cool. Fiberglass is going to be a really durable rod, and I really like it for like dry flies. Anything from like 5-weight down, I tend to prefer fiberglass, and then 5-weight up, I tend to prefer graphite because I'm usually throwing bigger stuff. So, but dry flies on fiberglass is a really good time. Then if you want to check out like a good budget rod but you still want to stick with graphite, they have the Moonlit Umbra. I own this rod as well in a 4-weight. This is actually the same rod that I used in my Land of the Hoppers film that I made, where we just caught a ton of really nice brown trout on hoppers. I use this rod for every single fish that I caught in that video. I have it, I have it in a 4-weight. So it's actually 5 pieces in the 4-weight, but every other weight in it is going to be just a 4-piece rod. So it's kind of nice for backpacking. I did take it on a backpacking trip as well, and it was really nice not having the rod stick out the side of my pack really far. Because it's 5 pieces, it just packs up really small. So yeah, for 169 bucks, and that discount code works for this too, this is a really good setup right here. Then we're going to dive into my all-time favorite rod, and that's going to be the Nirvana Moksha. This rod is definitely more spendy. I'm just showing you this because I really like this rod. But if you're looking to get into fly fishing, you really don't need to spend this kind of money. I just fly fish all the time, so I like some of the nicer stuff. And I love this rod. If you watch my videos, you'll see this rod in almost every video I do. I have it in a 6-weight with the fighting butt. And yeah, it is a fantastic rod. I love the way they do the butt section on this. But yeah, I have this exact one right here, so mine's silver with the fighting butt. But yeah, love this rod. And then one thing I like too about this company is they do have a lifetime warranty on it. So if you break, like let's say the tip of the rod, they'll actually just ship you the tip, so you don't have to ship your whole rod back in. That is one thing that you should really pay attention to when you're shopping for rods, is make sure you're getting a good rod from a brand that's well known, that has a good lifetime warranty on it, so it can back up that rod. Moonlit, they have a very nice warranty. So does Echo. That's actually the next brand we're going to be talking about. But first I want to show you one more rod here, and that is the Nirvana Phoenix Glass. This rod right here is a really fun fiberglass rod. I have it in a 2-weight, and my wife has it in a 4-weight. and it's just a lot of fun to fish dries and small streams with. I really enjoy this rod right here as well. But I do use the Moksha a lot more, and as you can see, it is not a cheap rod either at $2.99, but I do still really enjoy it. Then we're going to now dive into the Echo rods that I was just barely talking about. Echo is another good company. They have a lifetime warranty, and just like Moonlit, if you break the tip of your rod, you can just warranty it, and they'll ship you the tip to you. You don't actually have to send your whole rod in. There's a lot of companies out there. One that I've had experience with is Scott Fly Rods. I broke the tip of my fly rod, and I had to ship my whole rod to them, and then that took like a month for me to get back. And they fixed my rod for me. It was like 50 bucks, I think, not counting what I paid to ship it to them. But still got my rod out of it, so that was nice. But it would have been nice for them just to send me the tip rather than having to send the whole rod back. So that is one perk of Echo and Moonlit, is if you break a rod tip, they'll just send you the replacement for it, and it gets you on the water quicker. When I broke the tip on my Nirvana Moksha, my buddy set the hook on a bull trout and it broke the tip off. But they were able to warranty this for me, and they had me a new tip shipped to me in 2 days, which was really fast. So I was really grateful for that, and I was actually able to use it on our next trip we went on.
Yeah! Oh my gosh!
Let's go, dude! Dude, that's actually a nice one.
Oh my gosh! There's like 30 of them out there. I broke your rod, bro.
It's okay, man. It's got warranty.
Oh my god!
As far as the Echo rods go, now this is actually the company that I bought my very first fly rod from. I bought the Echo Solo, but then I actually was fishing on private property. I didn't realize it. There was no signs. We had started on public and waded into private, and the landowner came out, and I had my rod propped up against like the bank, and he ran it over with his four-wheeler because he was pissed that we were trespassing, and it actually broke it. And so I warranted it with the company, and because the way it broke, they couldn't just send me like a tip, like the whole rod was broken. So they sent me a whole new rod to replace it, but they had discontinued that rod, so they sent me the Echo base. So that was kind of cool. For 50 bucks for the warranty fee, I got a brand new rod out of it. And then that rod, and then they eventually discontinued that rod, and now they have it replaced with the lift kit. 200 bucks, and you're going to get the case, the reel, the rod, the line. This is a good setup if you just want to buy everything whole. This is going to have everything you need. Now the downside is you don't get the best quality when you go with one of these kits. Still really good setup, still decent, and if you're new you probably won't even notice. But you can get nicer stuff if you buy it separately. You just might be paying a little bit more. So if you notice these Moonlit rods that I was talking about, all these rods, even they're more budget rods, these are all just the rod, not the reel. But they're going to be a much higher quality rod because of that. And you can buy the reels separately. They have a reel on their website. It's 104 bucks. My wife has this reel. It's been great. I've had no issues with it. But to be honest, you really don't need a nice reel. You could get like a $40 reel off Amazon, and it's going to work just fine. Looks like they actually have this one right here for 49 bucks. That would be a fine one too. And when it comes to fly fishing, the reel is not important. What's important is your rod and your fly line. Having a nice line and rod is what's going to help the most. A reel is just a storage device for your line, unless you're going after saltwater species. When you're going after saltwater species, you need a nicer reel with a nicer drag system to fight that fish. But for trout, you really don't need that. Anything 5 weight down, you don't need a nice reel for. You could go really cheap. They actually sell, you can get 3D printed ones. So these are 3D printed reels. So if you know someone with a 3D printer, or maybe you have one yourself, just 3D print it up, save some money. Like I said, they're just a line holder. You really don't need a nice reel. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the reels in a little bit. Let's get back to rods. So they also sell some more like high-end rods on here. One that I have experience with is the Carbon XL. So this one retails for $229. I actually bought this for a lot cheaper when I got into it. I think this price has gone up a little bit, probably with inflation. But this rod right here is really fun. I think it looks really good too. I love the reel seat on it. This is pretty much my go-to rod. I had it in a 4-weight, and this is what I used until I demoed these Moonlit rods at the Fly Fishing Expo. And once I demoed these Moonlit rods, that's when I started getting into this brand. So I've pretty much shopped with them since I demoed that rod, and this is pretty much the only rods I use now. I just like the company a lot, and I like how the rods cast. So I did actually sell this rod. I sold it to my little brother. So he's currently using it. But I would recommend this to any friend or family member. It's a fantastic rod. It casts really nice. But this doesn't come with the reel either. This is just going to be the rod. So if the funds allow it, I would look at this one over this kit down here, but it's up to you guys. So any of these is going to get you on the water. None of the gear I'm going to recommend today is really going to suck, except for maybe the Walmart stuff and some of the stuff I talked about with Cabela rods. Another rod company I like to look into is going to be TFO. Now, I don't actually have any experience with TFO, but I have a lot of friends that use TFO, and they love it, and they highly recommend it. I've casted them, and they cast nice. But yeah, I would check these guys out. I'm not going to speak too much on these just because I don't know a ton about it, but I did put the price in here from $119 to $250, and it looks like they have some good options on here. I know the warranty with these guys is really good as well. So let's move on to the next one. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about reels. So those were some of the rods I recommend. Now we're going to kind of talk about reels. So as far as reels go, like I said earlier, you can go dirt cheap on them because your fly reels really don't matter. But if you do want to go with a nice reel, let me see if I can find it. I would recommend this one right here. This is the Lamson Liquid. This reel I have on my 4-weight, my 6-weight, and my 8-weight, and I've even used this in saltwater with my 8-weight. I went on a cruise and I brought it with me, and I fished every single stop. I actually caught some bonefish. That was fun, and I did fully submerge it in the saltwater while swimming out to a flat, and it still works to this day. I just rinsed it off in the sink afterwards with some fresh water. If you've seen some of my videos, you'll know that I don't treat my gear very nice. I'm pretty hard on my gear, and this reel has held up through all of it. I really do enjoy this reel. It's 139 bucks, so it is pricey. It's still considered pretty cheap compared to like some of the really expensive ones out there. But yeah, this is going to be a fantastic reel if you want something that's just going to last forever. But like I said earlier, you don't need to spend this kind of money on a reel. You can get away with something really cheap. If the budget doesn't allow it, I would not buy a reel that's expensive. I would buy a cheap reel and take that money and put it towards a nicer rod. That's where it's going to benefit you the most. Now let's keep moving. So now we're going to move to some Amazon reels. So Amazon's a great place for fly reels when you're looking for like cheap stuff. You can find them for like 61 bucks, 38 bucks. There's one for like $23. They have the Lamsons on there too. I've actually owned this reel right here in this combo kit, and I did end up breaking it. So I wouldn't really recommend that one. But I believe my buddy actually has the Pisca fin right here, and he's really liked it. So yeah, for 61 bucks, not a bad setup. And like I said, you don't need the fanciest reel to get into fly fishing. And a lot of times too, you can find like used options too. Let's actually see if they have any like open boxes or used. I'm not seeing it on there. Yeah, I don't think there's any use for this, but I keep an eye out for any used ones. That can be a good option to kind of save some money. Alright, that's enough about reels. So we already went over like rods. We went over reels. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about some of like the other stuff that you need for fly fishing. So the first one's going to be wading boots and stuff. Now there is a way to get into it a little bit cheaper. You don't actually need waders or wading boots right off the bat. If you get into fly fishing during the summer when it's warm, you could just get some sandals. These are the ones that I use right here. These are called Chacos. And you can just fly fish and just it's called wet wading. You can just wade in the water just with sandals and some shorts, and you can fly fish that way. And if it's in the summer, you know, it's going to be warm, so you don't actually need waders. Now if you're fly fishing in like the fall or the winter or like early spring, then you're probably going to want to get waders, but that can be pretty pricey. For waders, I use the Sims Tributaries. Let's see if they have them on here. Sims Tributary waders. So yeah, I use these guys right here. These are the Sims Tributaries. So they retail for like $229. Sims has a lifetime warranty on them. So I've had good luck with them. I actually bought mine at Scheels, and Scheels actually does a killer warranty with it. So if you guys live next to a Scheels, I would give that a shot. And then as far as boots go, these boots we talked about earlier, these are the exact ones I have. I really love these boots. I've had them for like 3 or 4 years, I believe, and they have held up really well. So that's just kind of like one thing to think about. If you don't want to spend money on waders or boots, you really don't need to. Just fly fish during the summers, and you'll be able to wet wade, and it actually feels really nice because on a nice summer day, having your feet in the nice cool water feels great. So, alright, now we're going to move into some other accessories. So we're going to go back to Moonlit's website, and we're going to look up leaders. So to those getting into fly fishing, you probably don't understand the difference between like leaders and tippet. This is a fly fishing leader right here. Basically all it is this is fishing line that attaches to your fly line. So that's the fly line's the colorful stuff that you see when people are casting. this stuff will attach to it, and it starts off thicker, and then as you go down, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner, so it tapers. This allows it to roll out a nice cast without getting tangled when you're casting a fly, since you're casting back and forth. Now, when you tie your fly on to the thin part and you have your thick part of your leader on your fly line, as you retie flies on, so like let's say you're fishing a fly and you cut it off, and then you tie on a new fly, cut that off, tie on a new fly, and throughout the day, every time you cut it off, that leader is going to start and get shorter and shorter and shorter every single time you retie on a new fly. Now, that's when tippet comes into play. So let's pull up some tippet right here. And this is all on Moonlit's website, and that discount code I showed you before, it works for all of this stuff. So here's some tippet. I really only use 2x, 3x, 5x, and 4x. That's all I use. You don't really need 6x for most occasions, and I don't really ever use 1x. You could probably use that for streamers, but I just buy 10-pound fluorocarbon fishing line for that. But basically, all tippet is it's just fishing line in different sizes. So when you have those leaders and you keep tying flies on and cutting them off and it gets shorter and shorter, eventually you'll get to a part where you can't tie on a fly because the leader is too thick. It won't fit through the eye of the hook. That's when you can take the tippet, and let's say the eye of the hook, only 5x fluorocarbon fits through the eye of the hook. That's going to be like a pretty small fly. You could then just take like 2 feet of this tippet, cut it off, tie the fly to it, and then tie the tippet to the leader, and that's going to extend your leader and make it last longer, basically. And I know this kind of sounds confusing. I have a video on my channel that explains it a little bit better and how I actually use a tippet ring to make my leaders last longer. But yeah, it's not too bad once you start doing it. It just sounds kind of confusing. And if you have a local fly shop, you can go in and they can show you how to do all this as well. But there is a lot of videos online about it that can also show you how to do it. So yeah, tippet and fly line tippet and leader is definitely going to be something you need. I know we talked a little bit about fly line earlier, but when you're first getting into fly fishing, you don't need a fancy line. Like they have these, let's go to SA fly lines. So Scientific Anglers, they're well known for making like really expensive lines. This is what I use, but I've been fly fishing for years. And you really don't need to spend this kind of money on a line when you're first learning. I would recommend just doing this one right here. It's 35 bucks, and my discount code works for that as well. But this is going to be a good line. It casts decent, and you're going to be able to just beat the crap out of this line. When you first get into fly fishing, you're going to be stepping on it, you're going to be getting it tangled. You're just learning, and so it's going to take a lot more abuse than someone who's been fly fishing for a lot longer that knows how to cast. So there really isn't any reason to get a super expensive fly line when you're still learning how to cast, because you're probably going to beat it up and you don't want to wear out one of those $100 fly lines. So just one of these is going to work great for you. I wouldn't waste too much money on a fly line, but once you get good at casting and stuff, upgrading to a nice fly line, like one of the Scientific Angler ones, that makes a huge difference. So I would definitely recommend it once you start to get the hang of it. But to start off with, something like this will work just fine. So, alright, I think that pretty much covers everything. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, check it out right here. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.